trust the process. Just know that if you're there to support your kids in the right way along the way, they're going to do fine. They're going to do great. And that's really our job, is to kind of place those guardrails and help them stay on the lane. We're like bumper bowling, right? You got the bumper guards and the gutter. We're going to keep them out of the gutter, but our kids are their own children. They're their own people. And it's not really about them doing what we want them to be and do. It's about what they want to be and do.
Welcome to the Parenting Athletic Kids podcast. My name is Travis Rogers. I'm a mental performance coach and the father of 2 athletic boys. Through this podcast, I hope to deliver actionable strategies that you can implement to help your son or daughter optimize their personal and athletic growth. I also hope these conversations help you enjoy the ride. Today's guest is Troy Urdahl. Troy is a former 3-sport college athlete and is currently the athletic director and head baseball coach at St. Anthony Village High School. Troy has written a book, Chasing Influence, Transformational Coaching to Build Champions for Life, and is the father of 4 athletic kids. This is a good one. Here we go. Welcome to the Parenting Athletic Kids podcast. We have on today Troy Urdahl. Troy is and has been a coach, athletic director, high school athletic director, has athletic kids, has kids. So he's covering all the bases for us. Welcome to the podcast, Troy.
It's great to be with you, Travis. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And an author. And again, we mentioned that in the intro, but certainly want to cover that. Troy, let's jump right in. Tell us about you, your coaching, your sports background. Run us through that.
I grew up in farm country in Minnesota, and sports really were my life from a young age. I come from a family of teacher coaches, and so both grandfather and my father were teacher coaches and Hall of Fame coaches. And so I think I knew early on that sports were something significant to me, and that I wanted to be involved in some sort of way. Went to Hamline University and was lucky enough to play 3 college sports, played a year football and then 4 years of baseball and hockey, and ended up getting my teaching degree and got my start and foot in the door, and probably got hired in my first position because I was a coach. And so for the last 25 years, I've been a head baseball coach. For the last 20 years, I've been a high school activities director. And really, those experiences and by raising my hand and putting myself out there and offering and volunteering to serve, some of the best experiences of my life have come through sport. One of them is meeting my wife. My wife and I met in college. She was a college gymnast, and we have 4 kids who have been incredibly active, and much of our life revolves around their activities and has. Our daughter's now in college. She was a high school gymnast and softball player. And then we have 3 boys all in high school this year. So a senior, a sophomore, and a 9th grader. And they are football, hockey, baseball players. So sport's been a huge part of my life, both personally and professionally. And like I said, if you give to the world, it has a way of giving back to you. And that's certainly been true for me in my coaching experiences.
Love it. Fantastic. Tell us about, so 3 sports, the boys are doing all 3 sports. Sounds like that was your thing. I haven't asked anyone yet, like the specialization versus 3 sports. And it sounds like you were, man, even in college doing that. That's incredible. What are your thoughts on that, specialization versus, multi-sport athletes?
I'm a huge advocate for multi-sport athletes. And I know that the world is changing in front of us as we speak. And there's all kinds of forces and pressures on young athletes today. But I think the longer our athletes can play multiple sports, the better it is for them. It's better for their development. It's better for their opportunity and better for their experiences. And it's also better for the friendships and community that they're within. I'm coming to you from a high school of just over 700 just over 700 students, grades 9 through 12. And so part of that is a question of opportunity and where you're at. At a high school of 700 students, I think one of our greatest benefits is that you can be involved. And it's one thing that I love about St. Anthony Village High School, and I'm seeing this with my own kids. If they want to be a 3-sport athlete, if they want to be in 3 activities, they're able to do that, and they're able to participate. Changing landscape in youth sports right now, but one of my greatest fears is that we're actually going to cannibalize our own sports by increased specialization. And the more and more we see it, I think there's the possibility of maybe higher end elite athletes, but I think our mean is really dropping. And I've seen that in the last 10 years in the sport that I love and I coach everyday baseball. I don't think our average baseball player or our average team is at the same place it was 10 or 15 years ago. I think our top talent has far surpassed it, but I'm really worried about some of our games and sports in part because of specialization.
Right. So I think what you're saying then, so at a younger age, they're having to specialize. And then at a sport like baseball, the talent level is you feel like it's dropping slightly because of
Yeah.
that.
And just in simple numbers, you lose 2 or 3 of your top athletes from a group, your team's no longer as good. Even though some of your top talent might be better than it ever has been before. And then that gap actually creates a worse game because now your top talent is even that much better than where your average is. And so the disparity between the top talent and where the game's being played is greater than ever.
Gotcha. Makes a lot of sense. So obviously you've thought a lot about this. What about let's go with your boys since they're still in high school. If they say, Dad, I want to play college baseball, I want to focus on baseball or whatever sport it is, does that change things for you as the parent, as the coach, as all these different hats that you're wearing? Like what's that conversation look like for you with your son?
Yeah, and I have a senior who will want to play college baseball, and he has played community-based baseball the whole way through. And so whether it's been through our youth program, our school program, and then VFW, Veterans of Foreign War, and American Legion baseball, he's done that. And now he would like to play college baseball. And for him, and really, I'd say this is true for 99% of those who are interested in playing at the next level, it's about finding that right fit for him at whatever level it might be in terms of what his academic interests are, what that program is looking for, and what that program needs. And then for my son, in my son's case, what he's interested in, he'd like to play for a highly competitive program. So that may mean that he might not play for a year or two, that there may be more of a maturation and grooming process before he gets on the field. For others, they might want to get on the field right away. And so you're looking at, all right, what's the current roster at? What are the positions that they are looking for? What positions do I play? How can I fit into this? And then the part I don't think that we can ever talk enough about is the culture. And coaches matter. Coaches are such a significant and important piece to the experience that you're going to have. And so what is that coach and that coaching staff all about? Are you just a number? Are you a recruit and just a number? And then they'll sort out the chaff once the fall season comes along, and they'll make massive cuts, and half the people they recruited are now without a team to play on. And so how does his vision and what he's hoping for align with what the coaching staff believes and what the coaching staff is looking for? I think it's a really big piece and an important part of the recruiting process. And when I talk about recruiting, two-way, both. It's a decision on two parties. One, the team and program and what they're looking for, and then second, the athlete and what the athlete is looking for. And how you get a great experience is when those two visions mesh and meet each other.
Love it. Really, really well stated, and I think gives parents a great kind of overall, like, it's about asking a lot of questions, both to your son or daughter, being mindful of these different situations, talking through vetting out college coaches, college programs, the athletic fit as well as the academic fit. That's really good. It sometimes seems um, in this day and age like it's just about the program or the school or putting on social media. This is where I'm going to school for a lot of kids and stuff. And I know from my experience too, with my son who was at one place and now is another place, like it's not just about putting that out on Instagram for a day. It goes way deeper than that. So that's awesome. Thank you for that.
Well,
So you
and
talked
these are,
about, let's dive, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, these are really, really big decisions and really big investments on both sides. And
Yeah.
I think you laid it out nicely. There's so much thought that needs to go into it. And a lot of times we're running on emotion. And I think that feeling piece is significant and important, but it's so much bigger than just being able to post on social media that you're committed to somewhere. That doesn't mean much if it doesn't work out or if it's a bad fit. What you're really looking for is that best fit for, in a parent's case, for their child.
Yeah, I'll share this. At some point, and it's changed now, when kids can start committing to schools, but up until a year ago, like kids could commit in 8th grade or like super early on. And then I saw a stat like kids that committed before their junior year to a school and went to that school, 75% of them only made it 1 year at that school. So these kids that are committing really young, going to the school, it ends up not working out 75% of the time. So all these things are super important to know that. And I'm glad they've switched it. I think now you can't commit till your junior year. So a little more maturity in there, a little more time thinking about this and going through what is really important to me instead of just a post on Instagram or whatever. Awesome. Thank you. So let's talk about, I think people out there are probably getting aware of what this might look like a little bit, but let's talk about your book. And your book was meant for coaches, but I think it's more than that. Like a lot of parents out there, if you're not a coach and not a parent coach, there's still a lot of really great information. Talk us through kind of your book and what your idea was as you were writing this, who you were trying to transmit these messages to. Talk us through that if you would.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. So the book is Chasing Influence, Transformational Coaching to Build Champions for Life. And it really is for a wider audience than just coaches. It's a book that is filled with stories of coaching, leadership, and teamwork. And it talks about how by leading self, you're able to more successfully lead others. And whether that means as a parent, as a classroom teacher, in the business boardroom, or on the athletic playing field. I think it applies equally to all. And I'm a recovered history teacher. So before I became an activities director, as a history teacher, really a passion and love of mine. And really I was a social studies teacher. And so I also taught AP psychology. And so you'll see a lot from, it's filled with stories. And you'll see a lot from history, a lot from psychology, including sports psychology. But really it's about digging in and understanding how our influence matters and how we can really make a difference in the way we think and what our life looks and feels like, and perhaps as significantly, maybe more, in the lives of others, and how that's not something we should ever take for granted, but we really have a wonderful opportunity. We talk about leadership and coaching positions. That group, as a parent, we have this incredible influence on our children. But when you're a leader and a coach, you get to extend that out into the dozens, and then into the hundreds, and then generationally. And that's a pretty neat deal. And that's why I think coaching is the greatest job in the world. There aren't that many jobs where we can say we have that type of influence and impact on the lives of people for the rest of their life.
Love it. Maybe give us one chapter, one story from the book or something, or more than one if you like, that parents can, again, it's a coach's journey basically in this book, but something that parents can latch on to, a message from the book that we can deliver or take and deliver to our kids. Thoughts on that?
It's built on life skills. And so each chapter is about a different life skill that's transferable through leadership and coaching and through parenting, and how we can, and then it gives a real life. And sometimes I use a lot of fables in it as well. So I'm big into storytelling. I love narrative learning. It's how I learn really well, but I love the power and value of a story. One story that I love in there is the idea of redwoods as it connects to and relates to relationships. That for all of us, life is really about relationships and making a positive difference in the lives of others. And you see these redwoods, and they're hundreds of feet tall. You can drive a car through some of these. The oldest redwood is the General Sherman redwood in California, and General Sherman started growing around the time of Socrates, just to put in perspective of how old this tree is and how long it's been on the continent, long before any of us, right? And long before Western civilization was just beginning when the tree started to grow. And so you see how massive and how large it is. And you would think that with a tree that big, it would have this substantial, significant root structure, and that it would go down nearly as far as it goes up. With redwoods, that's actually not the case. And these huge, majestic trees grow in clumps or groves because their roots intertwine and interweave with each other, and they actually lock with each other. So that's what makes them resistant to natural disaster. That's what allows them to grow for thousands of years, is because of their connections and relationships to those around them. That's just like us in our lives, with our family, with our friends, with our teams. Those connections are what really ground us. And that's really what the foundation is for all of us. We'll all have our own roots, but those roots connecting with others are what give the meaning and significance to our life. And those are the people that will be helping prop us up when we need them most. And so I always love that story, and it's one I love to share. Probably dozens of stories like that in there that are all favorites of mine, but that one jumped to mind, just the idea that life's all about relationships and making a positive difference in another person's life.
Love it. That's perfect. Thank you. Tell us that all this, I think, stuff you've talked about rolls into what are your like core beliefs with youth sports? What are you hoping that your kids gain from youth sports? And then how are you on a daily basis, season basis, whatever, trying to challenge your kids to take on those traits? So
Yep.
that's kind of two parts, but what do you value from youth sports? Let's start with that.
So my personal and professional purpose is that I serve to use the power of sports to make the world a better place. And I think that working alongside others, we can do that. I truly think, and in our schools, I would even pause and say, why would sports be a part of our schools if that weren't the case? And I think the American model shows exactly that sports and activities are teaching and learning just like any other classroom is, just like an English classroom, just like a science classroom, just like math, that what we do isn't extracurricular. I don't even use the word co-curricular a lot of times. It's curricular. What we're doing is teaching and learning. And if we're learning some of the hard skills of life in the classroom, I truly believe it's the soft skills of life that we're learning in the pool, on the courts, in the rink, on the field. And those are some of the most important skills that we will have for the rest of our lives. If you think about the classroom, and as a classroom teacher and as an educator, education is important to me. Classroom education is one of the most significant influencers in a person's life. However, you talk about what we learn through competition and through competitive sports. Where else do we learn to deal with adversity, with dealing with failure, even with how to handle success? These are the real life skills that we learn through sports. We even learn how to deal with difficult people. We're not going to love every last teammate we have or even every coach that we have. But when we get out into the real world, post-graduation, we're going to have to work with that. And those who are able to navigate those situations and deal with adversity and bounce back stronger, deal with difficult people and find a way to manage, those are the people who will achieve real success, because they learned those skills, so many of us, through our participation in sports. So the classroom can give us those hard skills, but what we learn through sport are those soft skills that I think truly define what type of person we are long after we're done playing.
Love that. Really well said. How do you then, again, on a second part of the question, on a daily basis, like, do you communicate that to your kids? Like, here's why we're here, like to learn these skills, to develop these skills, to learn the importance of hard work. How do you emphasize that with your kids?
Yeah, and it's about being intentional and being purposeful. I also think it's about perspective and understanding why I'm here, and for my own children, or whether I'm coaching someone else's children. The best representation for myself and for my wife are how we do raising our children and how significant and important that is. I want them to be kind, empathetic contributors to the world. And so core values for me, I will use this with my own children. I use it with our baseball team, is that I want them to all discover how hits will help them now and for the rest of their lives. And when I say hits, obviously in baseball, hits are going to help you win a game. But hits for me is hard work, integrity, teamwork, and service. I'll throw another concept in there, sisu, but I won't touch too much on it now. But that's another S for me, is sisu. It's a Finnish concept of guts and determination and strength and intestinal fortitude. I have a sign in my office that says sisu, and I try to live that by every day. But if I had a magic wand and I were able to give this to anyone who plays for me or to my own children, I'd want them to understand that hard work, integrity, the ability to work with others, teamwork, and having a service mindset is what will get them ahead in their lives. It's what I value. And so if I were able to give them this, that they took with them because of my influence for the rest of their lives, that's what I'd wish. Now, why I think in part multiple sport participation is so important, and why I know I'm not the only influencer in a young person's life, is because we all work together to round that out. We all take what we value most and what's most important to us. And if we're able to sprinkle that into the lives of others, that's how we make well-rounded, great people for the future.
Love it. Beautiful. I'm just thinking, hopefully trying to think of like what parents would ask these questions so it's your senior baseball season, or as you've gone through it with any of your kids, and they struggle, and you see things out on the field, and you're thinking to yourself as the coach and the dad, like, I wish we were doing these things, better, or getting more hits. Or do you always just go back to you reminding yourself that's not what's important here? Or is it so ingrained in you, those kind of core values, like you don't even have to do that? I'll just speak on my experience. Like I believe, and I'm 100% in with you on this stuff. Like, it's all about character. It's all about teamwork, 100%. But there are times as dad/coach where I'm like, oh, and I have to just keep pounding that rock and keep reminding myself and keep a journal and write down, this is what I value. How do you do that? Is it a constant reminders? Is it, if you said, like, I don't ever struggle with that, you'd be the first guy I talked to that said that, but maybe that's the case. Your thoughts?
I think I have good balance and perspective, but I still struggle with it. I think one of the things I remind myself of constantly is, who's this for? Like, is this for me or is this for my kids?
Yeah.
And many times the kids have a very different perspective than the adult. And many times, say we are frustrated, say we are upset. Rarely, if ever, have I seen a frustrated and upset parent move their child the other direction, which is the desirable, right? Normally, all we do is pile on. So showing our frustration, showing our impatience with the process, being upset, usually only makes it worse. And so I constantly remind myself that, who is this for? Or like, who's this for? The second part is, what did we learn from this? Like, what are the core skills and values? There's always a learning opportunity that comes from any success or failure. What did we learn from it? How can we get better from it? And then I think the third key piece that I'm constantly reminding myself and my own children is yesterday doesn't need to define us. Like, how lucky are we that we get to wake up each and every day with a clean slate? And we don't need to dwell on 0 for 4 yesterday, because we have an opportunity to be 4 for 4 today. And even in my own parenting, like, I have better parenting days than others. And when when I fall short, when I don't meet the standard that I want to be as a parent, I try not to beat myself up over it. I try to remind myself I can be an awesome parent tomorrow. Same's true of coaching. Like, if I have a bad coaching day, that doesn't define me, that I have an opportunity to go out and do a better job tomorrow. I think a lot of times by dwelling on what didn't go well, we only make it worse, and it becomes this vicious cycle, and it starts to spin out control on us, because we just build upon what negative thing may happen, rather than just flipping it on its head and saying, how lucky am I? I'm going to wake up tomorrow and have a new chance to have a great day on this day and to do better than I did yesterday.
Love it. Fantastic. Just so many, just love hearing you and how well defined you have these thoughts. And again, knowing that sometimes it's going to go awry a little bit, and not necessarily, it's the parenting thing's hard, and you've got 4 of them. So I'm sure it's twice as hard as it's been for me with just 2 of them, but love it. Is there anything else that you, coming into this, this podcast, that you wanted to make sure to, knowing who we're trying to touch and get messages out, anything else that you wanted to add before we close it up?
Well, and to build on what we were just talking about, I just say for any parent, don't rush it. It's going to happen so fast that you're going to want to be pumping the brakes at the end. So don't rush it. When I talked about how lucky we are to have this opportunity today, that also means don't get too excited or look too far down the road about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. I like to tell the story about how, through me and rushing the process, one of the worst days in my life was when I had to take my pontoon and fishing boat to get serviced. And the place I was taking them was about an hour away. And so I had the brilliant idea to get the pontoon on its trailer, like I should, and then to put my fishing boat on top of it. So I stacked them up so I'd have one trip. Here I thought I was being efficient and effective, and I was going to drive it an hour through the country and bring it to the place it had to be. I was going to save myself, 1 hour there, 1 hour back. I was going to save myself 2 hours. But I was getting greedy, and I rushed the process. And part why it was one of the worst days of my life is turning a corner on a major highway. I lost both. They tipped over on their side, and here are my 2 boats in the middle of the highway, and I have to figure out what to do and how to get a boat back on a trailer. Shoved that fishing boat deep down into the ditch and thought, okay, this is silly. I'm going to drop the one off. I'm going to come back and get the other. By the time I got back, that fishing boat is on a tow truck. Cost me $200 and some odd to get it back. And it was just because I wasn't trusting the process, and because I wasn't being patient, and I was getting greedy. Parents, don't get greedy with time. Trust the process. Just know that if you're there to support your kids in the right way along the way, they're going to do fine. They're going to do great. And that's really our job, is to kind of place those guardrails and help them stay on the lane. We're like bumper bowling, right? You got the bumper guards and the gutter. We're going to keep them out of the gutter. But our kids are their own children. They're their own people. And it's not really about them doing what we want them to be and do. It's about what they want to be and do. And I think that's tough for a lot of parents, but I also think it's really important. All the kids, it's for our kids. We want what's best for them.
Love it. Thanks so much, Troy. It's been a pleasure having you on, and just a refreshing and great reminders for me, and how clear you are and concise on how you've kind of framed it all, and I'm with all your experience coaching AD for kids, man. It's a pleasure to kind of hear you walk us through all that stuff. So thanks so much. A pleasure. Any parting words?
I always enjoy catching up with you too. Congratulations on the book. It's fantastic. You. Congratulations on the podcast, and it's been an honor to be a part of it. So thanks for including me.
Awesome. A pleasure. We'll We'll do it again at some point. Thanks for being here, everybody. Parenting Athletic Kids podcast. Troy, if you'll just hang on for 2 seconds while this thing uploads, we'll be good to go. Yeah, thanks again so much. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to like, follow, and especially share the podcast. We're trying to spread the word. If you want more information on techniques, tools, strategies that you can use to help your son or daughter, please check out my book, Parenting Athletic Kids. It's available on Amazon. Thanks again, and we'll be back with another podcast really soon.